Hello everybody, my name is Reita, or Rai for short, and I'm making a new video series called Rei Tries. I'm just going to be doing first impressions of games and maybe following up reviews based on how I feel about them. So without any further ado, let's get started here. I played the For Honor live beta and was surprised by how much fun I was having, so I decided to go ahead and try out the full release game that launched on February 14th, and so far I've been having a lot of fun with it. I played a couple chapters of the campaign mode, which seems like it's going to end up being about maybe 8 to 10 hours long, and I also played a hefty amount of the multiplayer mode. So I'm going to start here with the single player mode and kind of run through what that includes and what the campaign is like. This is not going to have any spoilers, and then after that I'm going to take you into the multiplayer mode and give my impressions on that. So without further ado, again, let's jump in here. When the game starts out, you are playing as the Knights faction, and there's also the Viking faction in the game, and there's the Samurai faction. But you have to start out as the Knights, and you're playing as a warden who joins the Blackstone Legion. But he's not really sure how he feels about that, and as you go through the campaign, he'll kind of question what's going on and why he's doing what he's doing. And then that will introduce you to another important character in the game who I'll discuss later on. So the campaign seems to be kind of like a tutorial mode almost for the multiplayer mode. So in this level here, you have to go and attack control points. It's kind of just like any other game you might play that has a control mode. You know, grab point A, B, or C and hold on to it. One interesting thing is, even though the game is kind of praised or unique for its dual mode where you lock on and fight, which you'll see coming up here, as you see, those grunts actually just take one hit to kill and you can't lock onto them. So they're kind of there just to clear out and to add some flavor to the game. But the real meat of the combat comes here. As you can see, the way the combat works is you hold L2 to lock onto them, and then you can use the right stick to guard, and you have to guard and attack on either the left, the right, or up. So when you attack, you'll be holding L2 the whole time, and then you'll move the R stick to the left, and then press R1 for a light attack or R2 for a heavy attack, and you'll hit them on the left side. So you can do attacks, like I said, on the left, on the right, or up. So the way that you block in this game is if your opponent launches an up attack, you have to be in the up stance as well, and it will do it automatically. So as long as you're holding up and you're in that up stance, if they attack up, you're automatically going to block that attack. So in order to actually get hits on enemies, you have to attack in the direction that they're not blocking. So that was just the first level of the story mode there, and actually second level, sorry. But the story takes place over 3 chapters, so like I said, you have to start with the Knights, and there's actually a story reason for that, why you can't just jump around to whoever you want to play first, like Battlefield 1. The game takes place with the Knights first, and then the way that that story concludes kind of leads into how the Vikings campaign comes in. And so it is related, there is a cohesive story there. So here I am jumping into the Viking campaign, and one thing with these campaigns, like I said, being sort of a tutorial for the multiplayer, it also introduces you to several of the 12 heroes that you will get to unlock and play as in multiplayer. So here it's having me play as the Raider to start off the campaign, and that's kind of the basic, more easy to learn. And then as the campaign goes on, you'll get introduced to other characters who are the other classes. So this is kind of the versatile, straightforward fighter. Each faction also has a heavy tank-like character and a assassin character, and then a more balanced and utility character. So I would say so far the campaign isn't super interesting, not super riveting, but I definitely think there's potential there, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. But really, the meat of the game is multiplayer, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into that. When you load up the map, you'll see that there's 3 different types of game modes. There's Deathmatch, which includes 4 versus 4 elimination, and then a 4 versus 4 point scoring system. You have Dominion, which is a 4 versus 4 capture the control points. You'll have to hold A, B, or C, and whoever gets the most points wins. And then the more probably hardcore modes, or the more esports-like modes, are going to be Duel and Brawl, which is a best of 5, 1 versus 1, and 2 versus 2 respectively. And those are definitely where the more skilled players are going to be standing out from the lesser skilled players, whereas the 4 versus 4 definitely have skills, but can be a little bit surgy sometimes, where 3 players gang up on somebody, you're not going to make it out. So here I am doing a 4 versus 4 Dominion match, and I'm going to let this play out for a little bit to kind of show you how the flow of the game works. So if you're somebody like me, you want to just run out into the middle of the map right away, you're going to be met with other waves of opposing grunt soldiers, those basic ones that die in one hit, and in order to attack, or in order to capture the node there in the middle, you have to push them all out and kill them all, and then hold it for a certain amount of time, and you capture it, and that starts giving you points. The other players, of course, are going to want to push their army forward at the same time, so you have to go ahead and try to keep them out while also getting in there and attacking them. So I'm fast forwarding this here just to kind of show you again what the flow of a match might look like. So if you're sitting here trying to keep the middle like I am, point B, you're going to be doing a good amount of trying to get in, clear out those creep waves like in a MOBA or something, and then addressing the actual other players in the game when they come along. So here you can see when he did that animation there, that big guy, he entered revenge mode. So what happens in this game is if you're blocking enough or you're taking enough damage, you can enter revenge mode for a short period of time, and this gives you more damage, defense, and health. And what this pretty much is set for is to allow you to maybe have some kind of a chance if you're outnumbered. That may or may not work for you. So another thing you'll see here when I'm on low health that's kind of common in multiplayer is kind of playing a cat and mouse game. If you get low on health, you can run, and there's really not a lot that some people can do depending on how fast your sprint speed is. You can pretty much run either indefinitely, or like me, if you're screwing up or you're just not as fast as that guy is, he ended up taking me out. So while I'm trying to defend the point here, you're going to see some more of the 1 versus 1 combat. And like I said, you'll notice how, again, this is me playing at my start here, so I'm definitely not very skilled at this yet. But trying to attack where they're not attacking and then defend where they're attacking is kind of the way each match plays. With this aura I set down, you'll see that you can have perks in this game. That one, I believe, makes other soldiers nearby attack faster. You unlock that as you get kills and defend points and capture points. Another mechanic you'll see here is when you finish somebody off with a heavy attack, you can perform an and when you do this, it not only gives you that sweet animation there, but it actually gives you health back. So it's pretty good for trying to keep you in the fight and regaining some health. So here I'm jumping into the 1 versus 1 duel mode. I believe I won all 3 of these matches here. This guy wasn't particularly skilled, but I also wasn't either. I'm playing as the Peacekeeper. That's the assassin type character for the Knight faction. So they have low defense, of course, but they're pretty good at inflicting damage, and they also can apply a bleed on some of their moves that inflicts damage over time. And so with these 1 versus 1s, the arenas are actually really small, so you got kind of like a very tense situation where you'll see here this guy really doesn't have anywhere to run, so it allows me to run in and finish him off when he's trying to get some breathing room. So they become pretty tense in that way, and can either go really fast, because you can die pretty fast in this game, or they can drag on for a while where you're both trying to find an opening but don't want to risk your opening and get hit. And I'll take a moment to say here that each character so far seems to play pretty differently. While they all follow that same 3-point guard and counter mechanic, they also have different ways that makes them unique. So the Peacekeeper here actually can't hold that guard stance forever. So while other classes can always be guarding to the right or always be guarding up and hold it indefinitely, the Peacekeeper can only keep a guard up for a limited amount of time before it breaks. So you have to be more quick with your block, and it's a lot more faster paced in that way. But as you can see, this guy was not really a match for me, so I ended up going, I believe, 3-0 with him. So now I'm going to jump into the loot system and the leveling. So what you can do once you complete a match, sometimes you'll get gear, and you can equip this gear and it gives you different stats. Not necessarily like you equip a better weapon, it gives you more damage. But it might be something like if you equip this item, you'll get more ability to block damage, or you'll be able to recover stamina faster, which you need to be able to use your attacks. So these is kind of more of a balance or trade-offs that you have to choose how you want your fighter to be, rather than just equipping the best gear to get the best stats, because it's not really vertical. Things are more of side grades rather than upgrades sometimes. But speaking of upgrades, there is a mechanic where you can salvage the gear you don't want, and then you can use that to actually upgrade pieces of gear, which I haven't really explored yet, but there is an upgrade system there, and I was actually pretty surprised by how many different pieces of your gear you can customize and put different stats on. So you really can fine-tune how you want your fighter to be to an extent. One thing I'll show here is that the game actually offers a basic and an advanced video for each hero on some of the moves they can pull off. So, like I said, this might be more of a fighting game really than it is a third-person hack and slash. So each character has their own combo set. So for instance, one character might do a combo string that's powerful with R1, R1, R2, that finishes off with a strong attack, but then you might play another character that doesn't have that and has to do like R2, R1, R2. So watching those videos definitely gives you a good way to learn those characters. System again, there are contracts you can take that are pretty much just like daily quests. There are set ones that change about every day or so, and then there are different contracts you can take out and fulfill as you see fit. So overall, the campaign probably isn't going to be anything amazing, but it is actually pretty interesting so far. This is the character Apollyon, who kind of serves as the leader of the Blackstone Legion that you join, and she has this dynamic going on where she is almost obsessed, it seems, with comparing people to either wolves or sheep, and she likes unlocking the wolves in people and punishing the sheep because they just wait for their slaughter. So it's interesting seeing where that goes in the night campaign and how her actions carry on to what happens with the Vikings. So here's kind of a clip I want to show because it shows when the game gets frustrating, and for me that kind of happens with the revive mechanic. Here I'm playing 4 versus 4 elimination, where you only have 1 life. In a round. So as you can see, you can pretty quickly revive teammates, but I turn around for 1 second and she's already able to revive her teammate we just killed. And then once he gets revived, the whole team shows up and you're clobbered immediately. So that could be frustrating. I definitely think Ubisoft can do some in the balance department. With revives, I think they might be a little too fast, because like this game is kind of a little weighty. Your attacks have to be very deliberate. You can't just cancel and roll out and keep moving really fast. So if you just move over to another side of a room, for instance, if they start reviving, it's going to be very hard for you to get out of whatever animation you're doing and then turn and run over and stop that revive. So I think it might be a little too easy, but only time will tell here. And while the duel mode in this might be what people consider the most hardcore, just because 4 versus 4 can get kind of zergy sometimes, and even with the revenge mode, there's really no way you're gonna be beating somebody in a 3 versus 1 unless they're just really, really bad. The game does have a system where even if you're not locked on to other players, you can actually block that direction. So if you're locked on to somebody and you're fighting them and another player attacks you from the left, you can actually guard left and block their attack. But in general, that's not going to save you during a fight, but nonetheless, it's pretty cool. So here I'm just letting a game of Dominion play out here, and I would say overall I've been enjoying it enough that I'm going to go ahead and keep playing and finish out the story mode and keep leveling up in multiplayer. I would say you probably don't want to go and spend $60 just on a whim. The gameplay mechanics are definitely different enough that some people might like how the combat's more deliberate and how it's more weighty. I would say it almost feels a little Souls-like, but at the same time, I haven't played another game that has this kind of guarding system. And if that's something that you'll take to and you think it's fun, you'll definitely get a lot out of this game. But if you don't really like it and it confuses you, like I've read on Reddit with some people, then this game might not be your cup of tea. Especially, I would say, as time goes on, when the initial rush of players dies down, you might be left with only the more hardcore players. So in this game, skill really does matter, and you could get killed pretty fast. So I would say definitely at least give it a rent if the game looks at all interesting to you. It might be a game worth. Anyway, that'll conclude Rei Tries For Honor. I hope to put out more of these videos in the future, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.